here. And
Well,
then
that's like the garden I grew up in, which is perfect. It's just,
yeah,
it's what I wanted
yeah,
around. I mean, it wasn't quite as formal as and
It
grand.
is. It looks like your house.
You what?
It looks like your house.
I know, the one that I grew up in. I wanted to, actually, I'm going to tell that very quick story. Are we live?
yes, we are live. Let's go for it. Go ahead, Henrietta. Welcome to the Vyne. I'm Henrietta Friends.
Vyne is my production company where I do kinds of theatre and film. This component, the garden on the Vyne, is I designed it to curate web series with amazing humans and conversations and workshops and online retreats, and also with artists. I'd like to do an evening salon with painters, poets, musicians. But the reason that I couldn't think of what to call it, and I just want to explain to everyone that the Vyne, it's named after my childhood home, which is a big National Trust house in England, a stately home, which, by the way, we didn't own. My mother was a single mother and we lived in a tiny wing of it, which was actually cheaper than living in a council flat in England. But so I grew up in this sort of extraordinary big castle-like environment with gardens, forests, lakes, woods, not forests, woods, and a lot of nature, a lot of animals and birds. And my mother used to point out all the natural wildflowers. And so I came to realize that this kind of environment, I was very lucky, is that it informed my whole psyche, really, that I'm naturally very connected to just the natural world. I didn't grow up in a flat in a city. I feel very lucky for that. So when I was thinking about what to call this, I just thought, you know, where we're at the moment in COVID world is this very sort of mercurial, nebulous area. We all agree on that, and I'm sure. And I felt like, where do I go for comfort? And I go to friends and allies, but really it's the natural world. It's the birds, the animals, the leaves outside my house. That's the thing that we have. That's where we're from. And I kept thinking of like, what are our fundamental roots and origins? And I just wanted to start there. And then I liked the metaphor of how whoever comes to the garden, we all play a part in sort of creating this blooming world of diversity and beauty and sensuality, but also acknowledging that there's danger and there's still skill required, and that there's a huge kind of web of life and death. I felt like the garden was just a really good analogy for our lives, that we're part of it. And I mean, that's all I want to say. And also, one of my favorite little films is a film called Being There, with which stars Peter Sellers. I don't know if some of you have seen it, but he's a very simple gardener that hasn't left the house his entire life. So his entire relationship system is just with the garden and what he sees on television. Anyway, so he has this kind of beautiful, simple wisdom that the president of the United States becomes entranced by. And I just kind of thought, let's break through all these kind of systems of so-called power and see what the real power is. Let me just get my dog in a second. So just a quick quote from Chauncey Gardiner, who is the Peter Sellers in this film, which I put on the website. As long as the roots are not severed, all is well, and all will be well in the garden. And I liked that because it sort of reminded me that, this is what we have to ground with. There are many other tools, but I wanted to start to just cultivate this garden together. So perhaps what I'm going to do is introduce all of you. And if you could just speak to what it is to you. I know I've had a lot of conversations with the women, particularly recently, about this, Mother Nature, and how we as women are the mothers, and we carry that same kind of primordial intelligence that all of nature does. Not that men don't too, but I think it's in women's bodies, like the garden, that the wisdom is, we need that wisdom to sort of lead, really, is my feeling, and a lot of people's right now. So I just kind of wanted, I think it would be a good idea to introduce you all, and if you can speak to what you are seeing at the moment, what your work is, or what you would like to do on the garden, and then anything else that you want to riff on, honestly, and we'll just have a dialogue between all of us, and then I'll open it up to anybody out there. But I do want to say thanks to all of you for being here. You're all good friends of mine and colleagues, and I know your work quite intimately, but you all have what I would call, you know, beautiful gifts to give. You know, you really help humankind and all sentient beings, and that's what counts. So that's kind of my only criteria. If people are doing that and they're really deep entrenched in what they're doing, and just have kind of joy and guidance to share, then I think that we have something there, you know. So I'm going to start with, well, let me just get the dog in. Alan, do you want to say a quick thing first of all?
Yes, I just want to say thank you all for being here. I've been doing a bunch of live streams on YouTube with different artists and healers, and hopefully comedians with Kenny Fine, my old friend. We'll have him on sometime. But I think this is just a magical time we're in. It's a time where we can all come together in different ways, in new ways, and create a vision together, create new arts, create a new forum in ways that haven't existed before. And I think that's what's happening. I mean, I've been on Zoom. I'm a little zoomed out today, actually, but
I know. You're on Zoom all the time, but yeah, Alan, do you want to talk about what you and I were thinking that we craft together? I mean, I know you, me, and Alan have been talking about dreaming and the nature of dreams and what's happening with our dreams at the moment, which is very different, it seems to me. Like, people have got different circadian rhythms and different sleep patterns and much more complex dreams, it would seem. Certainly interesting. And then what else? Yeah, you riff.
Well, no, I'll just say what we've been talking about, me and Henrietta and Darren occasionally, is that, and it fits in with what I call my company, which is New Realities. It seems like something strange is happening to humans on planet Earth. We've sort of taken a different timeline. We've kind of took a left in March or February, and the world is just not what it was, which is good and bad. I mean, there's a new vibration, and it's very unfamiliar, I think, to every single person on the planet. But that's an opportunity what we've been talking about in these dialogues with me and Henrietta, where something new can come in. New dreams, a new story. I mean, I think Darren mentioned we need a new story, and something that doesn't look like what's happened before. We need to create a new vision of a new world, and not based on anything we know. So how do you create something from the unknown? I think is one thing I would love to hear from people about, because there's no roadmap for the future, which makes it very scary but very exciting. You know, Marshall McLuhan said we look at we walk backwards into the future. Well, now the path has ended, and we have to turn around and hack our way through the wilderness and create our own pathway to a vision. There's no path forward except the ones we create right now. So I think it's great that we're all here, all creative, all adventurers of consciousness in whatever way. And let's all just, it's one foot in front of the other as we hack our way through through the wilderness and see what we create with art and poetry and creativity and the sense of adventure and ETs. You know, me and Nicolette and a bunch of us, you know, I think we're tapped into something else. We call it ETs, but you know, maybe, oh wait, here's my little ET friend here. Um, anyway, we might call it extraterrestrial, but it's, that for me is really a name for the other, another unidentifiable consciousness. Let's call it the other or something. But as Henrietta, you should tell them what you've discovered, that we're part of that in a way more than we're part of the old world we just came from. We just came from an old world that it works to some degree and it doesn't work to a lot of degrees, but it's gotten us here. So do you have anything to say about that, Henrietta?
Well, yeah, actually, I was just thinking as you were talking, like I keep coming back to, you know, what I was on a Zoom call the other night with Linda, Tanya, and Anne Marie, and we were talking about this. You know, what is the feminine principle? It's like I want to say it's the sort of the wisdom of the mother's heart, which is so protective, fierce, skillful, savvy, but, you know, underpinned by complete sort of love and empathy. I mean, I think I personally feel that's the force that's driving us forward. I mean, that's not a new thing, but it's just that we've sort of been, not we, you know, I'm sure we all feel like a little bit sort of neglectful of what our actual kind of like direction is as humans. I mean, I've been thinking a lot lately about how, let alone not knowing what this ET thing is, that's, you know, whatever that is, these entities that more and more people kind of feel that they have some kind of contact with. I mean, we don't even know much about who we are, you know. And so I keep coming back to that, of like, what are we really doing here, quite simply? And seeing as we, you know, our environment, our habitat is sort of fading or, you know, in trouble, it's like we really have to pull on the skills and faculties that we do have. I'm sure of that, but that we have to kind of come into communion with those together, I feel. So that thing of the ET, Alan, is I actually feel like those entities, or, you know, new intelligences, are something that we can, you know, come into contact with and that we can have a helpful relationship with. I don't know how else to say it, you know, that there's a lot of new consciousness that can be born within us. But I'm looking to the natural world and animals, and Linda, I wanted to speak next, because she's been studying the natural world and animals for 30 years. And she also said something really interesting the other night about the virus itself. So Linda, you out there? Do you want to jump in?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, Linda, nice to see you again, Linda.
How are you all? Thank you so much for inviting me here. And I consider it an honor to be able to communicate in this way, because it's more important now than ever. And as you just said, this has been my life for many, many years. And I began my relationship with animals in the natural world when I was a very tiny girl. And that's where I learned love. And that is where I was invited into the world of, or I should say, I was invited into the consciousness of the natural world. Specifically, I was invited into that consciousness by birds. And I was so young that I had no barriers. I had no questions. I had nothing holding me back. So I was able to become part of that, trust it, learn from it, understand and live that. And that became more real to me than what was going on, in the 3D world. And so I never lost that. And as I grew up and became a veterinarian, ended up, life just been happenstance in a way. I think we're led. When we get out of our own way, we're led. And so I became a veterinarian. I lived overseas for so many years working with wildlife. But what I consider my great gift is that my consciousness of, and I don't like to use the word higher, but a consciousness that is beyond what most people live in was my norm, my go-to. And in that place, I could combine my understanding of that world with science and healing and an understanding of this planet. I also had a deep yearning, and I say this to Alan because I tell very few people this, but I remember as a very young girl, I would be sitting out at night in nature and I would spend hours and hours staring up at the sky, yearning, longing, this horrible, deep longing to be home. Home was not where I was. And was it, I imagine it was Jesus who said, in the world, but not of it. But I knew that part of my life journey was going to be to figure out what is home. And it's been a long journey. I have done that. And actually recently, I've been guided to some interesting information about the Pleiades. Alan, you might know a whole lot more about that than I do. But I do understand that there are beings, there are life forms. I mean, we don't even know, we know very little about the actual life forms that we can understand on this planet through science, let alone what is coming from off or beyond or wherever. So there's so much we don't know. But what I have been talking about for many years through zoonosis, through veterinary medicine, is exactly what we're experiencing right now with the COVID. And before COVID, last year I was giving workshops and teaching about, we've read the books, we've got everything in our heads. Right now, it's all about experience. And we are thrown in the experience now. And what we need to do is refigure our relationship with nature, because it is my understanding and my belief through the zoonosis and my study of animals and wildlife and many years in the trenches with rescuing wildlife, that the natural world is crying out to us to reassess what we're doing. We've now been sent into our homes. These diseases, these viruses, these bacteria lived in nature in animals for eons, for thousands and thousands of years in harmony. We are disrupting the harmony. Not to go into all that now, but what I would like to do, and before I came here tonight, I was sitting in a quandary because there's so many things I could be saying. What is it that I really want to speak to people about now? And what I learned over the past year is how important it is for people to learn to live the way I have had the great grace to live most of my life. That is, in a consciousness that works with nature, that communicates with nature, that lives and respects and honors nature. It's such almost a cliche to say we are all connected, but how many of us are actually living it every day? And that's what I believe we're being called to do right now, And I would love the opportunity to allow people to experience what I experience, because it takes us to a place of understanding, of connection, a way forward, a way to see the way forward of what the unknown new normal is, because we cannot do otherwise. And what's beautiful about the time right now is, I think it was Oscar Wilde who said, I've been distracted by the distraction from the distraction. And so we've been in these lives of distracted from anything that is anywhere near nature and the laws of nature.
Yeah.
Given that opportunity now, let's go and rethink what's important to us, who we are, what we want to do with the rest of our lives, how we can help, how we can serve, but not as something other, but actually living that consciousness that generates and expresses the joy and the compassion that we can learn and share. And it's a natural phenomenon. And I truly believe it's where we're going to go, whether we like it or not, whether we go kicking or screaming. We're on our way to the new normal, whatever that is. And I consider it a privilege to be able to help share and do my little part in that evolution to a great transformation.
Thanks, Linda. So, we'll be, I just want to say to everyone that's listening that all these speakers tonight, people will be hosting series or conversations, and we'll craft those together. But Linda, you've just given us a really sort of focused dive into what your work has been, which I've always followed and loved. And so looking forward to what you've got to share with us in this time. So I feel called to go to Tanya out there.
I wonder where Linda is. Where are you located, Linda?
Well, right now I'm in Charleston. I was supposed to be in Europe now, or New York. So yeah, because I'm going to be up in New York. Well, long story, but I'm sort of positioning myself between New York, London. Yeah, so
Charleston.
Thanks.
But right now I'm in Charleston. The weather is lovely, and I'm able to hear the birds, and they've got a lot to say. Actually, the birds have a whole lot to say right now.
Yeah. Well, Tanya, who's out there, who you met the other night, Linda, I know her from New York City, but she's escaped to
the Hamptons, isn't it? The
Hamptons? Yeah, to somewhere in Long Island, and she's made her office outside under a tree and started pouring. And so, it was wonderful seeing what was happening for her, listening to that. But also, I mean, I know just a quick bit about Tanya, and I know her from New York, where her organization is called Our Humanity Matters. And she's been looking at, a holistic sort of ecology, the ecology of the human within our natural environment. And her particular focus in the last couple of years, or longer, but I've noticed that it's been really honed, has been on water and the consciousness of water, and the need for our relationship and understanding of water. And it's kind of a magical journey that she's been taking with that. So Tanya, if you're out there, perhaps you could tell us what you would like to talk about in the future with us. Anything that comes to your mind.
Yes, hi everyone.
Hi, Tanya.
Hi, nice to see you again. Yeah, and I appreciate your talk about animals and the consciousness, because we only borrow consciousness from nature. We are just extended brain of nature. So when we talk about nature, we should always say, and the rest of nature, because we are just an extended consciousness. We don't have brain on our own. So this is why I think, right now I moved my office. Partially was because my kids are homeschooled, so I had nowhere to go. and it was mostly raining, it didn't occur to me that I could put my chairs and the table, the desk out. And eventually I did. I even put umbrella, and I started to really enjoy my tree. It's actually in the back of the house where nobody ever sits. And it reminded me as a little girl how much information I got from nature. And before I even did that, I was aware and that we are going to transformation / emergence. And what Alan was saying, what is this new form or systems that can emerge or should emerge, or maybe they will emerge, and nature is dragging us along to waking us up. So we will be part of that new emergence that is much more holistic, and it is not man's system, but is second, it's systems that natures are part of in the whole universe. How can we drop inside of our information of our body, allow information to emerge, so we can create more holistic systems that can be part of the cosmic system? That this is actually I believe that energy, what's coming through, I experience it very intensely since October. And I'm in contact with a lot of my friends and healers, and they said their clients, they all notice the same thing. And the common thread is, I believe, free feminine, divine feminine. So this is why I thought that's the topic I would like to take on, the role of free feminine, divine feminine in this new emergence and transformation. And one of the reasons is because, and this is one of the reasons why I took on water as a medium. And Alan, I also took it from like McLuhan, like medium is the message. My background is in media and philosophy. So I wanted to create products that would actually bring higher consciousness. And I created a few products, and I said, you know what, this would be kind of considered perversion if you take a message as a spiritual and turn it purely into fashion. And I sat around for a few months and I said, what is the real medium? And I realized water is the medium, right? Water is the real medium. I said, how can I use water as a medium? So I started to focus more on that. And one of the things that then I started to remember, that I grew up in the environment that was really surrounded by waters. And I sat by the waters, and I believe I was partially educated by waters. I still remember the sound and the smell, and I could really feel the consciousness, and that they are, what I was fascinated by, that there was something between the physical and the etheric. And I thought, this must come from somewhere else. This cannot be this. It's just, I could not get enough of it. So part of it was my fascination and understanding that this bloodstream of the earth, how everything gets mediated by water, but also in that system, you're realizing, if you really ground yourself and you just observe, you don't claim to know it, you don't go in as a scientist, you're just fascinated by it and you fall into it, you become almost it, you're realizing that freedom, human freedom, is really in being nature. Really, and this is where they cannot get us, whether it's like, you can say, we can talk about celestials and we say, oh, are they bad, are they good, what are they doing, what is Gates doing, what is Musk doing, what is 5G, and so on. But no matter what the topic, no matter what the evidence, I always come down to the freedom is really being connected with nature. And I remember when I first come to the States 25 years ago, and I come to Washington Square. I was part of the NYU, and I had the room there. And I come and I go climb the tree, and I have like skirt on and the high heels, and the police comes and says, you know, you have to get no. I said, what are you talking about? I'm not coming after a tree. You didn't plant it. And he's like, no, it's illegal. I said, what are you talking? He says, you're joking, right? It's like illegal to climb tree. I want to sit on the tree. There's a sunset. I want to see. And the guy said, you know, what are you on? I said, what is wrong with you? Why I have to go off the tree? And then I started to realize, you know, how when you come to Central Park and everything is fenced. And I realized, you know, you fence nature, you control woman, you get totalitarian control system. So we have to go back. I mean, this is why I just quickly threw a few words there, but we have to go back to information of our body. And I believe in the last few months, and I don't think it's just because I'm sitting under the tree, There is tremendous of information available that is coming out through our sensory, that is not just visual and scientific and mental, and that is very rich. And it's very important to have the whole processes to come to actually to allow this to inform us to see what the next step is. So it's not like just let's quickly figure out what is next and let's step into it, but let's experiencing it so we can now stand in our authority and speak in from ourselves, from our individual perception, and then build something so we can really be independent, because anything from food, from vaccinations, through technology, through media, anything you name it, it has a level of control in it. So our job, I think, is to really unleash the feminine, the creation, the sensual, the primordial, and connect with on all levels with nature, with how they say planetary beings, and become part of and being addressed by it. And I hope in the next stage of our humanity that is going to be less talk of the spirituality and the spiral dynamic and this and that. Everybody wants to be on top of who is leading the movement and who knows what, but the individual work that needs to be done. So when you actually step to the table, you come from that place. It doesn't matter whether you have PhD or you never went to school, you read all the books in the world or you read 10, but that this is what you bring into the table. And I hope, what I would like to propose is the role of free feminine and divine nature, and how to unleash that on individual and collective. From what I'm hearing from my friends, there's a big movement of women on so far on individual level that they're struggling, that they're realizing that their energies has been trapped and used for more for the idea of capturing, controlling, extracting from nature, getting woman in a place where you can use her power and so-called uncontrollable kind of emotions and body and so, and to get it under control, and that this is undone and more respected. And I think that would be one step closer to nature and to freedom. Absolutely freedom. To me, it's all about freedom. I mean, freedom, not how they call, not philosophically, but hygiene of freedom, like how you always go in with the original, and you bring that information forth, and of course, and you keep on doing it.
Well, thanks, Tanya. That makes me think of a conversation I was having the other day, well, with you guys as well, but with Katrina, who's out there with us tonight, about, women's bodies. You said you come back to this sort of primordial intelligence of the body, the cellular structure, actual makeup, and women particularly. I think I was really interested in curating women, and to invite men too, but seeing, sharing much more intimate things that happen in those sort of strange period times in the night or even in the day, where we're almost, if we're having, call them visions or sensations, where we're actually getting information coming directly out of our body, whether it's in relation to animals, nature, each other. But that is something that happens to women. And because I just feel like it would be good to be sharing these things that we've kept quite secret, actually, that this is a wisdom that can kind of guide us. And, it's not invented. It's not it's not an invention. It happens. And what is it? What can we get from this? So I love what you say about both you and Linda referred to your childhood with birds, water, like you said, this primordial intelligence that, whether or not we're schooled, we're readers, it is there, it's accessible.
Exactly, it's accessible at all times.
That's great. Tanya, really great to see you again. Thanks.
Thanks. You look ready for what's coming.
Yes, he's the
What-
wizard.
Oh, what is coming?
We don't know, but we're going to participate.
I think we sense it, and that's the place to be.
Yeah, and so I'm thinking that I want to go somewhere very different now. That Shelley and Andrew out there they're both musicians. Shelley's a singer, Andrew plays saxophone. So they're kind of way into the primordial intelligence, if you like, to the oranges. You know, their expression is through music. They're both very gifted with their intuition. You know, I've asked them both countless times about personal things in my life. They both have a very deep wisdom in that way. So I thought if I could get those two on together, because we were talking about crafting a series which is about, you know, sound and song as a healing vibration. And also that's something, Tanya, like you were saying about, and Linda and Alan, we've all been talking about that whatever we can all tap into. I'm not a singer, but I know that when I do sing, something incredible happens. And when I listen, and we all know the power of music. Well, so I really want music to be a part of this as well. You know, where are you, Shelley and Andrew?
Yeah.
I'm here. Shelley, you want to say something or
Sure, I'm happy to. Shall I dig in and I don't know.
dig? Dig in.
Hi. Hello everyone.
Hello.
I just want to say thank you also to H for including me. There's nothing I wouldn't do for, I call her H, by the way, that's just our nickname. And there's nothing I wouldn't do for her. So I'm really happy to be included, and also just meet her lovely friends that you know, it's obvious would be around someone so special as H. Yes, I am kind of interested in facilitating a primal voice workshop, I guess it would be, and perhaps that's something that Andrew and I would do together, essentially helping people to find their voice and activate the vibrational healing within, using that voice, whether that's singing or humming. You know, I think we all know the amazing healing that you get from using your voice, but it's quite incredible how many people don't use their voice. And it doesn't mean you have to be an amazing singer. It's just about getting that sound out of your body and feeling that sound as well. And also by doing that, learning to sort of experience freedom, but also really start to tap into your own intuition from that vibrational energy. My background is that I'm a singer-songwriter, and I kind of started to notice these ripples of healing that across the world, really, that was coming back from my songs. This is, you know, way back when I started creating music, and, you know, just hearing amazing things from people in the world, you know, about your song made me do this, or this saved my life, or this, that, and the other. I mean, it kind of just got to a point where it was, you couldn't recognize that and honor that and acknowledge that, oh, this is something that I'm doing that's actually making people feel this incredible thing. And so it's my job, really, and I feel, you know, incredibly honored to be in this position to help anyone feel whatever it is that I'm bringing to them in that moment with my songs and with my voice. And sorry, I made some notes here. I'm not super off the fly. I'm not very good at being completely so excuse me for looking at my notes. But one of the things that I have discovered through being a singer-songwriter is what I'm calling primal vocals or primal voice. And it, you know, started through, I would be putting down a melody to either a track that I'd created or that someone had sent me. And the way that I do that always is to, you know, say someone just sent me a track, I won't listen to the song at all until I have headphones on, mic in front of me, eyes closed, press play and record, so that I can just primarily get those sounds out that just feel completely intuitive and authentic in the moment. So that's how I write songs in general. Just a sound that wasn't restricted by words necessarily. And so those are the way that those sounds would come out for me. And I did that for a really long time. And then I would start to write the words to the melody, and that's how I would create. But then I started to notice that there were kind of hidden words in the primal melody that was just coming from me. And I started to pick those words out and create them, and then write the songs that kind of felt like they weren't necessarily from me, but they were coming through me. And sometimes they would make sense, and sometimes they would make no sense at all to me, but then they would, like a year later. And that's when I started to really notice that songs or albums that I'd written a year ago, 2 years ago, I started to look back and recognize that like a whole album had come true 2 years later. And I had no idea about the connection until I started to really look at it and go, I predicted this, like this was a prediction. So I've only, and this is kind of a new thing for me in a way, but I've really noticed that there are sort of predictions in these songs, and I know that it's connected to this primal noise getting out of me thing. That makes sense. And so what I do know is that this has been the biggest healer in my life for things that I have needed to work through from a young age, and something that's been much more powerful than necessarily going to, you know, a therapist or talking things through. It's been my constant companion and healer, and I know that it is for everyone. It's something that people should be doing every day for mental and physical health. And it's really just about noises. It's not necessarily about words, but I feel like there is a workshop in there to help people find a way to activate that voice, use it on a daily basis, and then perhaps work through words if they want it to sort of consist of words, their own unique mantra in a way, that is something that they can do daily for themselves. But yeah, I'm something that I just would love to explore, and explore maybe that musically with Andrew. And then just as a sideline with what's been going on, I mean, I've been doing that, you know, most of my life. But I've also, which I don't know if you want to talk about this a bit more, H, but my dad passed away many years ago, and he's very present in my life and my songs. And there have been many, I don't even know how to explain it really, but lots of contact with my dad. I'll let you talk about that part, H.
Yeah, well, no, I just want to say this is Shelley and Andy. I'm sure a lot of you out there would have this. I've really been thinking about, you know, our ancestors, those that have passed on, and how we do continue a relationship with them. And Shelley had been telling me about this, particularly over the last 6 months. We've just been talking about it so much. My father passed away a month ago today, or yesterday, and I've been laughing at how obvious it is that connection with us, because I've literally asked for him to, you know, be here with me, and there's a certain sign that he gives me, and it happens all the time. It's happened in the last month. So everything that Shelley had been talking about has been happening to me, and I'm just very curious to explore that with other people. If we were to host a conversation, Shelley, with that, and I know Andrew, who's about to speak in a minute, you know, Andrew definitely has a lot of chats with the departed, And, you know, I just think that it's something that's a part of us as much as the natural world, and something that I'm interested in, like Anne-Marie had said the other night, this remembering who we are, you know, that's a part of who we are, our ancestry. And I think too that they can be, that, you know, the dead, whatever we want to call them, can be really helpful to us right now, right? In how we go forward now. So it's just a big, exciting adventure. But I'm delighted to have my dad alongside me, like you are. And so Shelley's much further along in her relationship with her deceased father than
Did we
but I
freeze?
know that it's, yeah, quite something. Andrew,
Froze. Oh no.
Andrew, are you out there?
Froze up, I think.
Oh,
Maybe it's the pressure of performing. No.
yeah, one of my favorite things. And actually, it's interesting because when Alan and I talk about abduction experiences, of which there are hundreds of thousands, and we've looked at the stories and the evidence, often dead ancestors and friends will appear with these unknown beings. I mean, it's a consistent feature, which I don't know what that is, but it's worth exploring, I think, you know,
Yeah.
for sure.
So what, are we waiting for Anne to come, so to accompany Shelley on the,
It's
or
not,
do you want?
if he's not there, we
No, Shelley.
could go to someone else.
He is there, guys.
Sorry?
He is there. He's there.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Andrew.
I think he's on mute.
Oh, can you unmute him, Alan?
Oh, yes. There he is. I'm unmuting him. Unmute. You have to unmute yourself somehow. There you go.
All right. Thank you.
Hi, Andrew.
Everybody's muting me these days. Hey, what's up, Henrietta? H, how are you, H?
Good to see you. Always.
Good to see you too. I am so intrigued by the experience we're having, because the way I walked to this door, and by the experience, I'm talking about the COVID experience. Yeah. The way I walked through this door was, and for those who don't know, I had terminal brain cancer about 10 years ago. I subsequently had half my brain removed, well, almost half. And the doctors gave me about 8 months to live, maybe a year. And going back to what Linda said, and then what Alan said, is I just had no idea what was going to happen. I mean, I've never had brain cancer, or, you know, I'm sure all of us have had that experience. And so you just kind of start, and this goes with you, Shelley, with your notes. I had no notes. I mean, I'm talking about written notes about, okay, and this is what you do next. And then I had no idea what was going to happen. I was improvising. I'm an improviser. You're in for it, Shelley, because I can change at a moment's notice.
Oh, no.
H knows about that. And so I just started to say, well, if I'm going to pass away, or if I'm going to die or transition, whatever term you want to use, then that's it. And going back with Linda, I went to nature. I went to, you know, plant medicine. I didn't do chemo. I didn't do radiation. I figured, what the hell? I mean, I might as well eat, you know, broccoli sprouts and see if the beta glucan heals me, right? And so on some level, I do believe that my music, or music in general, healed me, because that's all I could do. I couldn't play for months. I couldn't play my saxophone or my clarinet. And I really believe that there's an aspect to this current pandemic or plague or crisis, whatever you want to call it, where I've been led. Somebody mentioned, I'm sorry, Nicolette, maybe it was you, about the trenches. Somebody mentioned about being in the trenches. That, you know, I have all these people messaging me and calling me who have cancer right now and have to go in for surgery to get something removed, like their ovaries or a breast, or it's been mostly women. And it's so interesting to think, oh wait, there's a plague, a pandemic, whatever, a crisis, whatever this is for everybody. And then you have this really practical idea of that you need to go in and get a biopsy, you got to go get an MRI, you have to start taking medication. And as much as I want to walk around in the woods or in nature or talk to a bird, and it's like I feel like the talk before this call, I talked for 2 hours with a friend of mine who is going in on Tuesday for a biopsy and might have very, very bad cancer. And they kept asking me, "Are you there? Are you there?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm just listening," because that is facing death is, well, as we know now, because the entire world is looking at death, right? At least a lot of people. And I feel like I've been gifted the ability to understand what it's like to stand there and face death. And Henrietta, you brought up about this whole, me speaking to people who have crossed over, which is what I wouldn't use any term other than crossed over, because that's all they did. They're just not physical anymore, right? And what?
That's good. I love that. That just, yeah, the crossing over. They're just not physical, but they're right there.
Yeah, correct. Like your father. And so my dimension here in the Vyne, in the garden, is to help people understand that not everybody can comprehend their physical existence as it relates to their non-physical existence, whether they're alive in this body or whether they're dead. I don't understand to know what death is. I just know that I understand that I've been at that door. And for whatever reason, I think, Alan, you brought up timelines. I think I jumped a timeline. To be honest with everybody, that's what I think I did. I think I just made a decision and I'm living a different timeline. And I did it very consciously and very intentionally. And I would like to help other people in that position. When you're a nice plant, okay, you're in the garden, you're a tomato plant, and you're dying of whatever. Pick a locust or some kind of rodent, or a deer is eating your leaves or whatever. You start to freak out, like, I don't want to die. Okay, I can help you. I can help you with that. I can help you survive, or as I like to say, surpass, because I think survival means that it could happen again. Excuse me. So I have, physical evidence in that my brain has been affected, like physically, and I also have non-physical evidence and the fact that I do understand that I did jump timelines, and I believe and understand what Alan and all of you are saying, that is what's happening here. We all made this shift. And if anybody out there listening hasn't seen it, watch the show Counterpart. It's absolutely incredible in the foreshadowing of this current circuit. What?
That's interesting. Counterpart. And also, I just had a question from a friend of mine, Sarah Coombs, who's joining us from LA. She is asking you, Andrew, what exactly do you mean by a timeline? Can you speak to that? Like, what? When you say you jumped it.
I was doing visualizations this is when I had brain cancer, just to be clear with everybody so that it's not vague, even if you've heard my story before, where I was accessing alternate timelines where I lived. Okay. Now, what does that mean? It's one of those things where you might be looking at a photo and you don't notice something very obvious because you're looking at something else. So there's all of these details in timelines where we're focused on this particular timeline, us here on the Zoom call, or our children, or me, in my case, brain cancer, and then eventually my music. But just to the right of that, or the left, or up or down, obviously it's infinite, right? It's not two-dimensional. There's an alternative. And I think we can all relate in this group, also people listening to things where like, oh shit, there's my phone. I was looking for it. It was right there. And I looked all over my house, or my glasses, or, pick your thing, right? Yeah. And so it's all about focus. I cannot define the timeline. And if somebody else can, I would be happy to listen. to what they have to say about it.
Yeah, no, that's really, I mean, that definitely, I know what you're talking about. I think we all have an idea of it. I know that in my dreaming lately, and then a couple of sort of medicine experiences I've had, I've literally felt myself go out of what I understand to be time and space. I mean, it really has been, it's indescribable. It's like I'm in a different.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Indescribable is a great way of putting it for me.
Yeah. You know.
Words,
Are we
as
gonna hear-
Darren Stevenson would say, is words are short in this particular case.
What were you going to say, Alan?
I said, are we going to hear a little music? Because now, are you going to?
We could have a little music from Shelley or Andrew if you want. And then I was going to go to Nicolette and Trina as a sort of.
My neighbor is 95 and she lives below me, and it's probably 9 o'clock here or 9:30. I don't think that I'm going to play something right now. I appreciate the offer, but I don't think it's the best.
No, it's totally a good idea not to. We'll do it, you know, if we do something with you earlier too. I do want to make these a little earlier so that, like you said, Andrew, people in Europe, you know, my friends and colleagues in England, and, you know, if we can join and it's not just a recording, it'd be nice to do, particularly because we're out of the rigid time structure that we were in, even though we have routines. It has changed. We can do.
But maybe Shelley could play something. I love her voice. I mean,
Yeah, I'm
Shelley.
Play something if you like, guys.
Yeah, go on. How about the ukulele that you just bought?
Wow. Do you know what? I will just preface this with I'm not that great on the ukulele, but it's my absolute joy at the moment. So if you can just kind of ignore that part and listen to my voice. I'm going to play my little one because I know how to play one of my songs on there that I'm going to sing. But I bought this baritone ukulele the other day, and it is so beautiful. It's incredible, and it absolutely activates me doing primal vocals. I can either do sort of primal kind of talking in tongues with this, or I can do a song, or I could do both. I don't know. Does anyone have a preference?
I think I want to hear primal. I want to know what that is.
Yeah,
Darren
okay. Too.
Well, then I've got an idea. If we're going to do that.
Tongues.
Yeah, well, if I'm going to be doing the primal talking in tongues, I've got an idea that while I'm doing it, in the chat, just anyone throw words in there.
Yeah.
If it makes sense after a while, that maybe I'll just sing them. I don't know. Do we want to do that?
Yes.
As something fun?
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome. Yeah.
Let's just see what happens.
Yeah.
I'll sort of start mumbling and we'll just see what happens, because I thought, does this sound a bit better? Maybe? I don't know. We'll see. Let me know also with the thumbs up if you can hear me in it and if it sounds absolutely shocking. Okay. So this is my baritone. Can you hear him?
Wait, is it echoing for anybody? Darren says it's echoing with the mic a bit, but is that?
Well, perhaps. Well, let's see what happens when I start singing. It'd be weird when I'm talking, but. So I'm just making shit up as I go along, guys. Oh, Sometimes then I go back, like even just then I was thinking like singing anything. But what I realized is I was singing Love Me, Hold Me in Your Arms. So I'm just, it's just coming out. And then I'll just go, no, that's what I was just writing. Anyway, now I'm going to sing some of the words. Oh, suppress, Andrew says. Suppress. God, dear causation, and female love, treating myself. I need more words from you guys. There's nothing in the chat box. Water falling down,
Fantastic.
Thank
Oh, yes. That was so
That
good.
is just,
Beautiful.
I love your voice.
Yes.
I do.
you. Oh, don't know why I'm speaking.
I loved what you just did there with all of us.
I
Great.
do feel like there's actually something in there to structure, obviously, but with, you know, with people as far as them being able to say how they're feeling about things in their life, but then taking words from that, maybe in facilitating age, and then singing that back to them and giving them a melody and, you know, sort of a mantra for them to be able to get those feelings out, if that makes sense.
Definitely. I mean, I want that.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It's a good thing to wail things away.
Yes, it's a natural thing. The wailing and singing is natural for sure.
Yeah.
And just expressing through sound. Actually, I
Yeah.
think before we spoke, we just made sounds. I mean, obviously, you know, like that's more natural than language.
Yeah.
Thank you, Shelley.
That's okay. That was fun.
Beautiful, Shelley. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, guys.
Where do we go from here?
Sorry.
Well, should we go to some comedy or no, Nicolette?
Yeah, we're going comedy. We're going, oh, hang on. I just want to share what Darren said. There's a tunnel near my home where I go and do something similar, but not quite as skillful as Shelley's singing. So it's familiar, but yeah. That's so Shelley, we're really honest.
I love to do that.
We're going to do that. We're going to do
I
this.
love to do that. We're in car parks, me and my boys. I can't walk through a car park without doing something like that. I'm like a kid. I mean, you just have to, don't you? Given the opportunity.
Definitely. So, oh, Anne-Marie, we should let's go to Anne-Marie and Nicolette and Katrina. And just a very brief overview of who they are. Katrina is a therapist, psychologist, whose focus has sort of shifted to helping people integrate, you know, spiritual, mystical experiences, whatever they are, whatever form they are in. She's looking at that as part of the sort of human story, which is really interesting to me. And she's working with it in all sorts of ways. And Nicolette is, what's Nicolette? She does so many amazing things. She basically has communication with all different kinds of beings in the cosmos. and she can help people through readings with cards, through the system of astrology. She's constantly studying. She's also trained as a Kundalini yoga teacher. She's an artist, a designer. And yeah, Nicolette's somebody that I speak to on a regular basis, and we share, which is what I tend to do with a lot of women, particularly on this call. Like, we share really intimate experiences of our dreams and, you know, strange things that happen to us in those sort of in between moments. And it's really interesting because a lot of us are having similar experiences. And Anne-Marie out there is a yoga, meditation, and sound healing teacher. And yeah, all of you just chime in whenever you want to, really. Who goes first? Anne-Marie, picking on you. Katrina's up. Alan, can you unmute them? Katrina and Anne-Marie and Nicolette.
I made you co-host so you could
Okay.
too. But anyway, I have to go. One more. No, I can't. I have to go. That's Nicolette and Katrina.
And Anne-Marie, yeah. And that's kind of the panel for the evening, the group of just introducing everybody.
I'll see you later.
Yeah.
Have everyone unmuted now? Do we have everybody?
Yes.
Oh, great. Nicolette, do you want to jump in just because your face came right up on the screen?
Great. Hi. Thanks, H, for creating this platform for us to share all of just the insights that come through, and creating dialogue and sharing creativity. I think it's really important. And I love hearing so much about the feminine energy and how that is something that really wants to come through on the garden. And it's so relevant right now to what we're going through in society, and reconnecting with the earth, which is feminine energy, and connecting to our intuition, which is feminine energy, and connecting to our creativity and to the divine. And what I like to focus on with people is really empowering the seeker, and providing tools that are practical for connecting with your intuition on a daily basis, so that you can make good decisions for yourself in your life, and to, you know, just reconnect with yourself and your soul's purpose. So that's what I'm looking at to offer through the Vyne. And yeah.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's like a wonderful, pithy introduction of what you can do. But I just want to tell everyone that, you know, Nicolette is kind of a master of lots of different divination techniques, and really has helped me with a lot of tools and ways of into seeing new perspectives. And yeah, she's just a really, I've also really, she and I have talked a lot about this word responsibility, where, you know, whatever we sort of share with people, we're always aware that this is not, you know, the absolute truth of what we believe. It's just information that seems to be coming through, and for the receiver and somebody like Nicolette to sort of, you know, figure that out together in relationship to each other. You know, it's never like, this is the message I'm getting and I'm giving it to you, take it. So, you know, I'd like to host conversations around that particular aspect of things, like when people are talking about psychic abilities, or, you know, talking to the dead, or, you know, these are all, it's hard to really say anything concrete or absolute about these relationships. And I love your work because you're always so aware of that. You always have such an awareness of what you're receiving. Is just, you know, that, you know, it's very kind of ephemeral. It's like you're bringing in threads rather than a solid, evidential piece of information.
Yeah, I think one of the really cool things about connecting to, you know, I guess a greater energy or beyond just the physical is that, you know, we all receive information in different ways. Yes. And really honoring how you receive information. So the way that I might receive a message is very different than the way that you receive a message. And it doesn't mean that mine is stronger than your way or mine is right and yours it isn't. It came through to you in the way that it did for a purpose. And I think that's really cool and very unique. And yeah, sorry, like I don't know really how to expand, but
no, yeah, that's totally clear. Because then it gets fun. Like we can all adventure with different things. I definitely feel things in my body. That's my latest thing. Like it comes through like directly into my body, and I get the signs through physical pain or sensation, you know, which I'm just learning to kind of understand what that is. So it's really interesting. I know you have a different way.
Yeah, and I think it's the key is to kind of play with it and have fun, and that's where the creativity comes in, and that's also feminine energy, is to kind of, you know, if something comes through and maybe it's a color, you follow that color, and then it turns into a bird, or it turns into a tree, or it turns into something else, and then you're all of a sudden you're in a completely different landscape, and you're receiving information from everything around you, and a lot of people in society have been pushed to not use their creativity or their imagination. And, you know, this is where your intuition lies. This is where we remember our purpose. And, you know, there was conversation about, you know, how do we move forward? What does that look like? How do we move forward when we don't know, you know, where we're going? Well, this is where the curiosity and the play comes in, right? We're being given the opportunity to be in this phase of metamorphosis so that we can, you know, generate the energy so that we can move forward, so that we can release any kind of ancestral trauma, you know, coming into your feminine power and your masculine power, coming into union within yourself, coming into that, you must heal your maternal and your paternal lineage, and being in the space of less distraction from, you know, our jobs and everyday society. We're having to go inward and work through that. And that's where I believe that, you know, timelines begin to shift, because people are given this opportunity to reconnect with themselves, reconnect with nature, and, you know, really tap into that vibration of setting that manifestation or that intention that you're going to trust in the information that's coming through from your soul versus that which your current circumstances. I think this is a very oversimplified explanation of what that might be like, but I guess that's the summary of it.
Yeah, no, I love that. That just made me think of sort of what I was talking about in the beginning with the garden. It's like, what are our deep roots, our real connections to the unseen world, to our ancestors, to our lineage, to our whole history, you know, before we were humans, right? Because
right.
the rest of life is much older than us. We're newbies here. So I think about that a lot at the moment. But yeah, thanks so much, Nicolette.
Thank you.
And then Anne-Marie or Katrina out there.
Hello, I'll jump in.
Yeah, jump on in. Glamorous. Your crystal ball. Where is it?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. I just like to echo everybody how great it is to be here as part of H's garden. You know, the garden and the vine. It's like it's such a beautiful concept, and it's so beautiful to hear everybody speak. And I resonate with all of you on, you know, like different interests and fascinations of my own life. So I really feel like I am in the right place. And Shelley, that was so beautiful. That was just gorgeous. I've sort of gone down a sound healing rabbit hole in the last few years, and that's like, it's always good to go down a rabbit hole, isn't it? They're part of the garden.
Yes, definitely. A huge part. Holes that you don't know where they lead or what animals stand there. Yeah.
Yeah, and actually I've had some really interesting sort of like dreams recently, sort of like going, like down holes, and and having these sort of horizontal points of view, actually then sort of going down into a more sort of subterranean space. I was actually reading a beautiful essay describing the druid tunnels that are designed like for the solstice today, which was really exciting. And I've done like some primordial work as well with sound, talking in tongues. Very, very sort of simple to open yourself up to, but very powerful. I started exploring chanting and mantra, and that sort of took me to like playing with like the tuning forks and the perfect fifths, and like another way of talking about jumping timelines is like the spiral, and you sort of like go into like the still point of the spiral, and then we start again, and that's in another dimension, that's in another sort of level of the game, so that's sort of like been a fun part of my exploration. But what's been sort of going on for me particularly strongly this year is this idea of the divine feminine, sacred ecology, Vyne activation. I noticed that we can't talk about climate change. We can't talk about our imminent distinction. So we need to find like the words or the ways to sort of like be with this truth. And then sort of along has come COVID. But I observed too that while people are sheltered in place, people's minds are still scattered. People are still like plugged into the machine. People's minds are still very in a hyper state, and I think this is like the first phase of us sort of like quietening down.
Yeah.
So what I'm sort of what I enjoy doing is creating a space through story, through mythology, where we can actually contemplate our own beauty, our own power, our own joy, that can dissolve a lot of the structures that have been restricting us, and indeed sort of really stepping on a large part of humanity and the planet, and to actively like send out awareness and healing to like different really sore points on the planet that need to be healed first, like the water protectors in North Dakota, like Red Dawn, who was given a jail sentence of almost 5 years for trying to like in her role as a protector. And so in my practice now, like I'm sending like healing to the protectors and healing to myself. I think we all have to sort of like it's this simultaneous healing that's happening. And so in my practice, I'm looking at what is it in me that's colonized, that has to release and be with and support a woman who's locked up in jail.
Yeah. Yes.
And let's not forget, like, and we can't forget these very real injustices that are happening. And while we're all locked up for COVID, the people are still going into work on the pipeline. So that's happening. And
Yes.
and how do we dissolve that? You know, and I think like it's happening in our sort of sacred work through the work that we're all sharing in the garden. I think we dissolve these colonial structures on this level with the help of the whole sort of symphony of
Yes.
of unseen friends, as well as activate in the political, in what ways that makes sense, you know, like, and why not step into a green new future where everybody wins, you know,
Yes.
sort of come like my partner Kurt, I was talking about sacred ecology to him and the two teenage boys at dinner, and they went, "Oh, you mean everybody wins?" And I'm like, yeah, that's it. Everybody wins.
Yes. Everybody and everything.
Everybody, everything, mama,
Yeah.
mama's gonna win.
Mama wins.
Mama got to be happy. We've got to make mama happy, right? So, and then so in on my offerings, it's sort of like contemplations of this and not actually being overwhelmed by all of the stuff. Actually, breathing into our power, breathing into our collective power, and I love, you know, like sound and mantra and storytelling to create this intention, to sit in the intention, and then to sit in the intention in silence, and then just let the magic sort of happen through silence there for a while. So that would always be a big part of my offering, to sort of like set the scene to shut up.
No, that's great. That's great. And so, Anne-Marie, you wanted to offer, I love the idea of this online retreat. That, just tell us a bit about that. The Gaia, what did you call it?
I called it the Silent Spring Retreat when I was originally sort of talking about it. But now it would like be a spring retreat, or maybe, you know, I was I had some other sort of terms for it, but essentially, you know, it's what I've been describing, that we have a preparation through storytelling and sound that really talks to our capacity for healing ourselves and simultaneously healing others. And this can happen through an extended like workshop that goes over a day or over a couple of days, with the intention of sort of like creating this as a part of our life, you know. Yeah, I'd like to do an online retreat where we explore story and myth and sound to connect with our power, and then like sit in that sort of silence and let that sort of go out there into the world.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I don't want to keep everyone for too long, because I was thinking like, yeah, this will be, you know, we're at an hour and a half of chatting, but I think
Katrina wanted to say something.
Oh, yeah, we have Katrina, and then I just wanted to open it up to people out there, just to say hi and ask any questions to anybody, to any of us. So Katrina,
You see, too. And
sorry.
anyway,
Yeah. Katrina, are you out there? So
Yes.
Katrina,
Let's see.
we had such a long chat the other night about curating all kinds of different evenings and series, and I just want to tell them what we were sharing about. We're all talking about this, you know, mother, the mother love. I like to call it the love force of the heart of the mother, which is at the same time as completely loving and empathetic, as protective and fierce and intelligent and cunning and wise, and, you know, but also strict if they, you know, if it's needed. But so we were talking about this the series of putting together, you know, women sharing their, we called it mystical visions, we'll probably call it something else, but you know, this idea of what is coming through in women's dreams, whether it's prophetic or women's sensations or conversations between women, because this is quite a secret world, which would be wonderful to open up and bring men into in a deeper way, and also hear more from them perhaps than they share. Perhaps. I don't. What is happening? Maybe not. You know, let's see what happens. This is all about exploring the new. So Katrina, you go and.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're getting our feet back in the dirt. We're starting from basics. We're coming back to ourselves and our nature, and we're inviting everyone to do that with us. I think that's what this time is about. We're in this time of the compassion, right? I was listening to Shelley singing, and the wailing, the compassion, the grief, it just starts to well up in you. We can't ignore it anymore. We can't ignore the pain on the planet. We can't ignore the death. Front page of the New York Times today, listing names of people who have passed, and with no ceremony. There's so much grief. And yet we know that in the garden, there are cycles. And so we're moving through the cycle, and here we are going through the darkness and the pain, and we're wanting to see what's next. We're wanting to see what we can birth. And I think that's part of the intention here in this forum, is to explore, well, what do we want to birth together? What are we being invited to open up into? And really cultivate that opportunity within ourselves, within our practices, within our communities, creating a new culture for this, so that there's all these seeds of inspiration that are coming through our dreams, that are coming through our sensation, through our bodies, through our conversations. How do we move forward with what's coming up and make it the new normal? So yeah, I call it spiritual emergence, to use Stan Groff's terms, and that's what I'm passionate about, is helping people share their experiences, make sense of them, and integrate them into their lives and our life as a community, and where we're heading as a result of this crisis that's birthing these opportunities for us. And I just want to help people, you know, like some others were saying, find their voice to these things and normalize these things, so that we can tap into the wisdom. And really it's an expansion. It's a time of great expansion. We've been in this masculine, very narrow, very intellectual space, which is all about domination and power, right and wrong, black and white. And the feminine is just wild and open, and she's full, and she's birthing of all beautiful emotions, all colors. And that's what we mean when we talk about the divine feminine birthing. It's no longer about this linear masculine. It's now about this complete complexity that the woman is capable of. And it's not just the physical woman, right? It's the divine feminine, the wild nature within all of us, that's beyond the mind space, that's open up into the heart and the gut, and, you know, the sensation. So
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Making me think of so many metaphors in the garden.
It's a wild garden.
It is a wild garden. It also, I do want to just share this story quickly, because it occurs to me that one of the things that's definitely happened for me, and I've just witnessed it with friends too, is that in this particular time, our friendships and relationships have become, even though we're not seeing each other, it's become so much more intimate and honest. And all these new kind of, this new sort of intimacy, much closer, much deeper, and synchronicities as well happening. And right, you know, this time last year about, Katrina came down to Mexico with Alan. And I'd never met her before. She just kind of tagged along with Alan at the last minute and arrived in Mexico. But Nicolette had said to me a month prior, I met this woman called Katrina, and I feel like you should meet her, and we'll probably all be working together. But it's just those things I pay attention to, because if you're going to sort of weave a web with people, do it with the right people where you can kind of really be dynamic. So I pay attention to those synchronicities a lot right now. It's a very brilliant thing.
Yeah. We're aware of them. If we're aware of them, we can be guided. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to what you'll be sharing with us and the things that we can create. Like, I love the idea of doing these evening salons that are more fun, that we can do them with a drink in our hand, and and this, like Anne-Marie was talking about storytelling. Well, all of us have spoken about that in various ways. This isn't like a dry conversation. It's more about sort of creating together in the form of a story, and discovering therein. So I know it's lovely to see, like, Darren, Kenny, Michelle, Sarah, old friends, and then people I don't know, Lucia or Natalia, I think I know you as on Facebook. But does anybody want to come on and say anything from out there? You don't feel
I think Kenny had something to say about, didn't you have something, Kenny?
Kenny, because you know Kenny, don't you, Ellen? Yeah.
Yeah. Mama Pajama. Or what's
Pajamananda.
Swami Pajamananda.
Oh, you are dressed as
Well, I'm Goldie Goldstein today, Joel.
Goldstein. That's
So,
so fantastic.
thank you, Joel. I was busy all day. I was working the airwaves. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I do know what you're saying.
Girls got to do. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I took a pledge today, Jolings, to share, to be epically non-monotonous. Okay, Jolings? So my practice is, one of my many practices is alter egos. I call them alter egos. ALTAR. Alter egos.
Alter egos.
Alter egos, darling. So Goldie Goldstein is my latest and greatest. She's the embodiment of the divine feminine spirit of Miami Beach and Queens, New York, darlings. So I've been holding it down here in the epicenter of the epicenter, channeling the healing energy, the pillars, the giant pillars of light and love, and helping spread healing energy. And I think that is, it is the divine feminine is everything. So that's what Goldie Goldstein is all about. And I use story and song and words, and also creating space for people to kind of be uplifted energetically.
Well, that occurs to me that we should have an evening, obviously with Goldie Goldstein, but people should bring their alter egos.
Yes.
Mine is a nun, or it was.
Yeah, exactly.
Sister H, and Sister H met Pajamananda and had an interesting conversation.
Yeah, Swami PJ and Sister H. Yeah, they ran off together, I think, and haven't been seen since.
Do you have any wisdom from Swami? Any wisdom from the Swami himself?
Swami Pajamananda, my friends. Listen, in order to awaken, you must first be asleep. So this is one of the great teachings of Swami PJ. There are 10, I won't go into 10 suggestions, but the first one is, in order to be awakened, you must first be asleep. So this is a very good time for resting, letting yourself come to a place of rest. The more you come to stillness, the more you feel the movement within the womb. A revelation I had recently is that you don't need to actually move at all to do yoga. In fact, the more still you get, the more yoga will happen within you. So that is just a new insight during this pandemical situation.
That's a good insight.
Yes, darling.
That's a good insight. Mine was the opposite yesterday. I felt like, wow, I finally get, like, we must move our bodies in skillful ways. It sort of like activates things within. So
sure.
I'm not as far ahead as you.
Well, don't put it on a timeline, honey.
No,
Listen,
it's not on a scale. You're right.
don't put it on a scale because you're not going to like what you see. You know what I'm saying? Don't get heavy on the scale. No, really, look, here's another one. Be a good mother to yourself.
Oh, good
You know what
one.
I'm saying?
Good one.
Be a
Thanks.
seriously, it's all in the comedy, and it's all in the divine feminine to me, which I have been a devotee of the divine feminine for eons, if I might add, not just lifetimes, but eons, is I just want to put in this little thought that the divine feminine is such a transcendent energy. It is beyond the duality of masculine and feminine even. So it's a very kind of all-encompassing universal force. And I also think a lot about going through this kind of an ordeal about the story of Sita in the Ramayana. And if you're all familiar with the Ramayana, this is being sincere, that in order to overcome the reign of non-dharma on the earth, Rama and Sita both incarnated, and Rama had to incarnate in human form in order to defeat the evil ruler of the time, and Sita was kidnapped and taken into what was essentially a quarantine and isolation, and that her purity and her chastity in isolation is the energetic force that helped to finally break the hold of evil on the planet. It was, because that maintaining that, I call it the pillar of light, but maintaining that purity of spirit and that purity of heart is all that she had to do. And it was everything at the same time. So I think that's a good application for what we're all going through right now, is that the more we can just gently and compassionately be in our own purity, our own innocence of heart, that's enough. And then all this other stuff is great. It's all, and it's not to say don't do anything and don't dance every day and all that. In terms of like your energetic commitment. It's like all these people are posting about don't feel like you have to be overproductive and don't feel like you have to get, I can't stop some days. I'm making videos, I'm writing songs, I'm working on, I don't even know where it's all going. But at heart, I keep trying to, stay connected to that, to the divine energy and the stillness within. And that's where, to me, that's where right now the divine feminine is working her magic.
Totally, you're embodying it for us. Like, look at you, this glowing sun.
Drawings.
No, I love it. So Goldie, you're going to be coming to the garden and playing. I know
Very
it.
good, darlings. I'll wear my slippers. Listen.
Yeah, no, all bare. I'll be wearing bare feet.
You're okay putting your fingernails in the dirt, Miss Goldie?
Darling, my fingernails, listen, I only put organic substances on the fingernails, never put formaldehyde. And I said this morning, I had a gathering this morning with people and in the Zoom boom room. I never put any formaldehyde or any crap on the fingernails because you never know where these fingers are going to wind up. You know what I'm saying, ladies. Listen, keep it clean, honey, purity. So yes, I'm ready to put my fingers in the dirt. As long as it's organic dirt, honey. No fertilizer.
Okay.
Yeah, the lovely juiciness of soil, rolling in the dirt.
Amen.
Yeah, rolling in the dirt.
Rolling in the dirt, talking to the worms. Listen.
That's what Sister H did. She was a nun, but she was in love, as you know, Goldie. She is in love with the earth and all things of the earth. Like she made love to the earth constantly, rather than
got in a little trouble for that. But listen, it's okay.
No, it's fine. She's, that's just human.
Yeah.
She embraced her humanity.
Absolutely, darling. I made love to Pele once in Hawaii. It was on a junket, but you know, it was the highlight of my trip. Seriously. It was a volcanic experience. You know what I'm saying?
Well, look, we're coming up to nearly 2 hours. Does anyone have anything else to say? Oh, you know, I actually have,
It'd be
because
nice to hear from Darren and Lucia
okay.
and Dean if she wanted to. I mean, it's up to you. I mean, looks
No,
like,
let's hear from everybody. You're right.
Bless you, everybody.
Let's do
bless
it
you.
that wants to. No pressure.
It's your okay. Let's just loose. Who wants? Should I call on somebody? You said.
Yeah. Anybody that wants to join in.
Lucy was there first. I mean, she was the first one on. So let's
Yes.
hear what she has to say, and then maybe we'll go down. Hi, Lucia. Yeah, Lucia. There. Oh wait, let me unmute you. Sorry. Go ahead now. Speak. I think you're still muted on yours. Yes. Go now. Yes. You're good.
Well, I just want to thank everybody, and it's a wonderful encounter. I feel like very privileged to be here with everybody, and that we have so much in common. That's something I was not aware of, and I think there's more of us, and it would be so nice to connect more and more people. And
Yes.
the thing about the afterlife that some people have experienced and know a little bit about. I too have been very into the thresholds of helping people jump out of this time frame and go into the other one. So it's so nice to know that there's a lot of other people aware of this situation. Yet there is a lot of hurt and sadness over the people that are not ready to go and that are being taken without their permission, and that's one of my concerns. And I don't think it's time for so many people to be erased unwillingly, and that's going to leave a dent in that we have to heal and find ways to reach out to them, because, well, they're kind of like stranded right now. And that part is something that worries me. I design solutions. If you have a problem, I design solutions. That's what I'm good at. And like I said, I don't know how the solutions come, but they pop into my head, and then I just have to draw them out. And so it's not something I do. It's the solutions come when the problem arises. And so if you have a problem and you tell me about it, the solution is going to pop in my head, and I'll just have to draw it for you and tell you about what the solution is. So I'm there for whatever situation, whatever problem you think, especially with water, space, and well, that's it. Thank you so much. And I hope we get to, I'm going to try to connect on Facebook with all the people that are here, if they're on Facebook.
Yes.
And so we can start growing, because there's a lot of things I'd like to share, but not today.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. It's just like a tiny seed tonight. I just wanted to, you know, I haven't done a massive marketing thing or anything. It was just like, let's gather everyone and get this growing. You know, and I'm going to trust that it's organically going to grow. I'm going to make an effort, obviously, to garden, but I didn't do a whole thing. Yeah, Shelley, that's a good suggestion. She said, H, you should create a Facebook group so everyone can connect and chat on there. Actually, yeah. I've got a page called The Garden on the Vine. So should I do that, Shelley, or should I do another one that's more sort of private and intimate? because that one is just public.
Well, it's okay. We're public people. I don't know.
Yeah, we're public people. That's what we said.
Let's hear from Darren, because he always has a lot to say.
Darren, who's just amazing. If he's out there, yeah.
Let me unmute him, can talk. Unmute. You're unmuted.
So hi, everybody. So nice. What a privilege and a pleasure to meet all of you, beautiful souls, and listen to the joy and the inspiration that you bring. And obviously, some of us are slightly more playful. Some of us are a little more serious. There's a nice continuum between those two. I think that's wonderful. I absolutely celebrate and embrace that. Probably most of the time you'll find me to be relatively serious.
I love that about you.
I'm absolutely fascinated with the origins of what we clumsily refer to as consciousness and the problems that have faced our species over time. And hopefully I have some useful insights. There's one thing that I noticed going on today in the group that I'd like to remark on briefly. And I wrote some notes about it. So if you see me looking away, I mean, I could probably just, improvise it. But I noticed that so first of all, there was this phrase, the new normal. And I'm a sort of conscientious objector to that phrase, because whatever the hell is about to happen, it's going to be the new abnormal at best, right? We're not going to go back to some regular, I mean, look around your rooms right now. Do me a favor, just take a moment, look around and ask yourself a simple question. How many rectangles do you see? My door, my window, the books, the screen, the boxes we're in, these have all been regularized. This is evidence of a process of normalization that humans are incredibly fascinated by. Take a moment, look around, tell me if I'm wrong. Your rug, your bed, you name it, the windows, the walls, the ceiling, the artworks, they're all in these square frames, right? And if you look at me or you or us, right, there's no, this is an astonishing thing, but it has nothing to do with rectangles or normalcy or regularization or anything, right? So I think our species is inclined to do a couple of sort of habitual things that are dangerous. And one is to normalize things. And part of the reason we want to do that is that it's convenient. If we have a normalized model, we can offload decision-making. I don't have to determine whether this is good or bad, or do I have a role in making it good or bad, or, I can just depend on the narrative. And this is one of the things that I see that happens when things get wild, is people start producing narratives and they start communicating those narratives and factioning up in little groups of this is our narrative and that's their narrative, and they're wrong and we're right. And it's an incredible investment of energy that doesn't usually turn out very well. But it's easy to understand. We use narratives to structure and relate with both the experiences that we might refer to as ordinary, right? Like, I go for a walk outside, I have a conversation with a friend, and also the experiences that we might refer to as non-ordinary, right? I've just switched timelines. People who aren't alive are speaking in my mind. Last night I had a dream that was so strange that even with my relatively significant vocabulary, I'd have no chance of communicating about it with you, none. And actually that's a real story that happened to me a couple nights ago. I had a dream that just topped out everything I've ever done with dreaming and was entirely alien to my human experience. I'm really good describing non-ordinary experience. I can't even start to describe this thing. So one of the things humans do, and you'll see this in romantic relationships, right? They will trade intimacy for convenience. They will stop having the fascinated enchantment that goes on in the beginning of a relationship once they start rubbing their flowers together and get low-hanging fruit. No pun intended there. So humans are, in general, right? We're really interested in, and I think we're mostly unconscious about this, right? That we We cleave to narratives naturally. And when we're conscious of that, that gives us new degrees of freedom. So if we want to talk about freedom, we're going to have to talk about awareness and how to get some awareness of some of the traps we've been in for thousands of years in cultures all around the world, each in their own unique kind of local way. I'm fascinated with our relationships with language and knowledge, ideas, and particularly with categories, because categories underlie the tree of human knowledge. So these are some of the thoughts that I've had while listening to you today. I've had some other ones that I'll keep to myself for now so that we can keep it brief. But I'm really looking forward to learning more with all of you. And I related very deeply, Tanja, with something you said that I've never heard, or Tanya, in case I'm pronouncing your name wrong, that I've never heard stated that way, but it's absolutely clear to me. I realized maybe 20 years ago that the humans were about to get in really serious trouble because we were obliterating the ecologies. And most humans will think, well, there's a cause-effect relationship there. If you hurt the ecologies, eventually that's going to come home to you somehow, right? But what Tanya said was that we borrow consciousness from nature. And that's an incredibly important insight. If we don't change the relationship with the ecologies, we're getting our minds from that diversity, from that anciently conserved intimacy of, incredibly diverse relation. So it's very important that we, as human beings, I think, recognize that link. And it's not like sometime in the future bad things will happen. It's immediate, right? That body is our body. The distinction that we have in language is clumsy and somewhat dangerous. That's what I have to say for now. Go ahead, Helen.
I like just your thinking out of the box. I think maybe when I mentioned the new story in the beginning, it's to stop thinking in rectangles somehow and think in organic shape, which we're all a part of. Let me just ask Jean before we go. Jean, what do you think about all this? You mind sharing? She doesn't know anyone here, but go ahead, Jean.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. This is all quite interesting, and I love the energy of the group. You all are so different, yet your energy is kind of like on the same level.
Yeah, it's like a tree of a same quilt or something.
Yeah, but every patch is different. It's and like Darren said, it's like, it's not like, I agree with him in everybody's, I'm hearing a lot too, it's the new normal. And I kind of like stand back and go, well, it's not normal to me. And I don't really know if I don't really want it to be normal.
Yeah.
I just want it to continually flow. And every time that I get a new flow, it's different.
Yes.
I don't know how else to say it. It's just, I can experience something different, whether it's in my dreams, which have been really weird lately. Yes, Darren. And so weird that I'm standing back and looking at myself and I'm going, wow, look at what I'm going through. Can I get into the dream and then feel it? Can I somehow turn it around? Can I make it do what I want it to do? And it's just so weird. And at times, yes, I can. And then there are other times I think I want to, but I'm kind of holding back because I'm a little bit scared that what I want might happen. But it's just such a weird time. And I'm just sort of putting myself out there and going, well, whatever happens, just go with the flow, because it's all different. And I guess I'm just the kind of person that gets bored, and I always have to have something new. So I can really embrace what's going on, yet I just hear about, I'm going into a lot of rooms like this with a lot of different people and hearing a lot of different things that might happen. And I'm going, you know what? I am so open to that, because whatever a person can think of can happen. So I'm going,
Right.
that might be something that I might not want to happen, and it might be their reality, but it can happen. And it's just such a, I don't know, I just feel it's such a great time. I feel like I'm so blessed to be in this time right now. And I know we're going through this virus, but it's sort of what triggered it. It just seems like this is what triggered us to come together like this. Like the whole world literally stopped. And then all of a sudden we like shot off into this different, like this arc of time. We're no longer on linear time anymore. It's like this arc of time. And I just remember in a dream standing there and just literally watching the landscape just go wishing by me. And I'm thinking, oh my God, we're on a new timeline. And we really are. And it's a weird timeline, because I can stand there and be totally silent, and the whole world is just passing me by like really quickly. And then at other times I'm driving down the road, and I was with my sister the other day, and she goes, you know something weird? She goes, doesn't it seem like everybody's driving really slow? And I go, you know, I mean, I've been thinking the same thing for about 2 months now. And it's funny you should say that and feel the same thing. I go, because that's exactly how I feel. But yet at the same time, you can just stand still. And it's sort of like Alice Through the Looking Glass. When, you know, the slower she went, the faster time went, you know, and vice versa. And it was just like that. It's like the slower I went, the faster time went. So it's like this relativity that goes rushing by us. And if you just
That
stand
reminds
there,
me, it reminds me of what you're saying now, Jean. It reminds me of this poem that Elizabeth Gilbert posted on Facebook by Kafka, Franz Kafka. And he says, you don't need to leave your room. Remain sitting at your table and listen. Don't even listen. Simply wait. Be quiet. Still solitary. And the world will freely offer itself to be unmasked. It has no choice. It will roll in ecstasy at your feet. So I think that's what you're saying. That's Kafka.
better than what I could say.
It's actually put in a circle there for yeah.
But I love
Anyway, we're
that, Jean, about the dream, you know, dreams. Actually, that's something I just do want to say, that I've been speaking to Darren, you know, whenever we can find time, and we share our dreams, and we've done it with Alan, and then obviously because it's Darren, we end up talking about so many other things. But just our dreaming life is, you know, I definitely want to host something with Darren on that in the future, because there's just a lot there that we're all experiencing that's fascinating.
Jean, where are you from? Where'd you come from?
Massachusetts. I'm from Massachusetts, yeah. And I've been watching a lot of your programs, Hal, and I hit upon you about 2 years ago, and I just love what you do.
Oh, thanks. I know this is the second Zoom call you're with me today.
Yes, it is.
What was the one I just did before? Just like, this goes into like a mush thing. It's like dissolves. But Anyway, I'm glad you came. Yeah, Jean just saw this on YouTube and said, how do you get into the room? So I sent her this because she had been in the other. But wait, should we go to the other Zoom that I just did with Kimberly and Allie? It was Allie
Yeah,
and
Allie
Kimberly.
Storm.
Yeah, it was great to meet you, Jean. Hopefully it was
You too.
so nice.
Send me your Facebook or a link or something, and then we'll put you part of the group on the Facebook.
Okay.
And did you want to call Michelle there? That's the only person.
Yeah, Michelle, if you fancy coming on and saying hi, I've known Michelle for so long.
I'm coming. Go ahead.
Oh.
Hi, can people hear me?
Nice to see you at last.
I'm sorry, my kids have built this massive fort over our bed. So I've been having to manage, of course, pandemic and kids.
Yeah.
And so, you know, having to balance what I normally would have been doing as a political activist, as somebody that even working within my shamanic community, my life is even more in a vacuum than it was before. And so I'm very happy to be here to see people without masks in a safe setting. And, you know, having that connection with fellow humans that, you know, there were a lot of things that really kind of resonated throughout tonight's discussion about dreaming and about, you know, where we are in between these two worlds. And, you know, the fact that this is so closely tied to death at this moment, that these doors are opening in the micro and the macro level. And so, you know, that kind of brings, you know, a kind of synergy with how I kind of feel that this transition is coming. And as a political activist with decades of work in trying to shore up our society so that we can weather things like this, you know, it's going to be very trying. And I sometimes find myself very disheartened by humanity in these moments. But then, you know, some of the fears that many of us might have had about humans not stepping up and helping each other have been kind of put, you know, tamped down a little bit. I mean, I live in a gun-toting, you know, county of Indiana, and you know, people are not around, you know, all around us are not, you know, very progressive. And so, you know, being able to see that some of my fears that we would end up with that kind of militia backlash has not happened, you know, for the most part, no matter how vocal and visual they want to be. I have been renewed in my faith in humanity a little bit. And so I'm thankful for everyone being here, and I look forward to where this vine grows and takes over.
Thanks, Michelle. It's so lovely to have you. She used to come on nearly every webinar.
Once a month, Henrietta? How's
Sorry?
that? At least once a month. Can we do this at least once a month, maybe?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm thinking of, depending on what people want to do, I'm happy to do one a week, you know, curate different things, but just sort of go along organically. And I do want to do poetry evenings and, you know, storytelling. I want to do a variety of things, but we'll definitely do one once a month.
Can you read it, Henrietta? You're a good reader.
Well, you already read it, but I'll read it again.
Much better.
Well, when we'll read some of our own poetry next time. I just wrote another one actually, but I'm not going to read it tonight. You do not need to leave your room. Remain sitting at your table and listen. Do not even listen, simply wait. Be quiet, still and solitary. The world will freely offer itself to you to be unmasked. It has no choice. It will roll in ecstasy at your feet.
Kafka. Anyway, but we'll do our own poetry next time. But that says it something. I think that says what Jean was saying. Yes.
Yeah, it does.
It's just coming to the world is materializing to us in ways that in a way it hasn't before somehow. In some interior, like you said yesterday, from the inside out almost. Think that. Okay, so what do you want to say bye to everybody, Henrietta?
Yeah, I mean, nothing formal. I just want to thank everybody so much for just jumping on this first one and being really game to just dive in, because I didn't really want to over curate it. I just wanted people to speak, you know, from their heart about what they wanted to. But just to say, you know, with everybody, thank you so much. And I really look forward to creating things together. You know, thanks, Goldie.
Thank you, darling. Blessings of the Blue Buddha on you all.
Thanks. Oh, there's a message coming in. So yeah, from now, I guess I'm going to say I'm going to create a group. Shelley's going to help me do that so that we can all stay in touch and just, we're going to curate together. I mean, obviously I'll do the main part of it, but any suggestions welcome at all. And I'm really looking forward to it. It's actually lovely to connect with everybody in this way. And it's going to be lovely having more and more people on, more voices, and growing.
Great. Maybe we could have themes like dreams on each.
There'll definitely be themes. And I mean, each series or conversation will have a title. There's going to be themes. It's not going to be quite as freewheeling as this, but I just wanted us all to hang out, really, and chat. And then I love new people too, people I haven't met before. It's great.
Well, I think it's great that, like, Jean just jumped in here, doing it online, and we can invite people, like everyone in, you know.
Yeah, no,
Thank
definitely.
you. Thank you. Thank you.
I'll send more
Thanks
invitations.
for coming.
This was just a very loose, freewheeling one of like, come on in and say hi.
Oh, we're gonna have a UFO night, right, Henrietta?
Yeah, definitely.
Have a thing? Okay, thank you. Good to see you, Linda.
And everybody, Anne-Marie and Nicolette, Tanya and Linda, Shelley and Andrew, thank you.
Ciao, Bella.
Hey, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
Big love.
Much
Lots
love.
of love.
You know,
Katrina,
I'm going to do, and I'll start programming all of us.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Okay.
Michelle. Take
Yeah,
care.
I love you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.